Perfect. So today we're going to be doing two recipes. So we have the sweet and sour chicken and we have Cajun chicken burgers. So these are takeaway recipes. And I suppose there's an option for you if you kind of want that taste of a takeaway, but you don't want to spend the money on it, or you just want that little bit of a healthier option. So we're going to start off with the sweet and sour chicken, and then we'll move on to the Cajun chicken burgers. But if you're doing both recipes, I would recommend that you preheat your oven for the wedges. So preheat your oven to 210 degrees. And then we can get going on the sweet and sour chicken. So the first thing that we're going to do for our sweet and sour chicken is our rice. So I have brown rice here, which takes longer than white rice. So if you have white rice, that'll take a little bit less time. So maybe leave it until after we prep the vegetables. But if you are using brown rice, we're going to put it on now. So I've already measured out my 4 cups of white rice. That's what it looks like there. But if you're using it, 1 cup of rice is the measurement. So 1 cup is 1 portion. So 4 cups would be for 4 people, and this recipe serves 4 people. So 4 cups of these, and the ratio of rice to water is 2:1. So it's 2 cups of cold water to 1 cup of rice. So you use 1 cup of rice and then put it up into 2 cups of cold water. So I already have mine prepared here. So I have enough rice on here for 4 people, and I have my water in there as well. So I'm just going to put it on the back, and I'm going to put it on at medium heat. And that's going to simmer there for about 30 minutes. And then we can get started on the rest of our ingredients. So I have that back on the back. Yeah, so mine's just sitting there on the back. So while that's cooking now, we're going to start on the actual ingredients. So sweet and sour chicken is kind of a common thing that you can get in the Chinese, but often it's kind of high in saturated fats, and the sauce that it's actually made in, or even the pre-made packets, are often quite high in sugar. So this recipe is healthy. It's lower in sugar, lower in saturated fat, which will reduce your risk of cardiovascular disease and reduce your cholesterol and everything, which is a great alternative, especially if you're kind of you're craving the takeaway, but you just want to be that little bit healthier. So we're going to start off, and we're going to cut our onion. So if everyone can see me okay, so I've just got 1 onion. So there's 1 onion in the recipe. So I'm just going to cut it down the center. And you can follow along with me if you're there, and peel off the brown skin on the outside. Hopefully I don't cry while I'm doing this now. If you cut it down the center before you peel it, the skin comes off that little bit easier than trying to do it beforehand. And then just top and tail it. So put the top off and the bottom off so it looks like that, so flat. And then I'll do the same with the other side. Peel it off. Just like that. And leave the skin just there. You can clean up the mess afterwards. And then again, cut it off at the bottom and cut it off at the top. So that was really easy to peel. So always when you're cutting an onion, leave the flat side down on the board. And also I'm using a green chopping board for vegetables. And obviously if you're cutting meat, you'd be using a different chopping board, because you don't want to cross-contaminate your ingredients. So to cut an onion, we're going to cut diagonal down here, and don't cut to the end of the onion. It just saves you slipping, your hand slipping or anything. So we're going to cut our onion finely into small chunks, and just so it can fry off nice and easily. So chunks about that size. I'll come up to the camera and show you now when I've cut both of them. So again, the same with the other side. Cut it lengthways, but don't cut till the very end. And then just across the way as well. So it should look like that. when you're done. So just into small kind of cubes, that size is perfect. Next, we're going to do the pepper. So on the same chopping board is fine. So we're just going to get, I got a red pepper. You can use yellow pepper, green pepper, whatever your favorite color is. And then just cut the top off and get the insides out. So I like to do it like that, and then just take out the inside, so the membrane part, and then cut it in half. And also, when you do it like that, you also get to use the top half, so less waste as well. You're only cutting out a little bit. And then for the pepper, I'm going to cut it lengthways as well. So just like this. And also with this recipe, it's quite versatile. So if you don't like peppers or if you don't like onions, you can switch it out for like a vegetable that you like. So even things like white cabbage or broccoli, basically like whatever you have in your kitchen, you can use at that time. So I cut that into small chunks as well. But if you prefer lines, you can do lines and you can kind of get that crispier taste. I'm just going to do chunks for today's recipe. So just like that. Now, so the pepper should look, just have a little bit here to chop. And even frozen vegetables would do the job. A lot of people think that frozen vegetables are less nutritionally dense than fresh vegetables, but they have the same nutritional quality. It's just the frozen ones would last that little bit longer. But for this, we're using that. So the size of the pepper is about that. So quite small cubes is what I would put into them. And then our last vegetable that we're going to use is our carrot. So I already have some carrot cut up here, but I'm just going to demonstrate this carrot how you would cut it. So I have this one peeled. So the recipe says 2 carrots. So this one is already pre-peeled. And I hope everyone washed their hands before they started prepping as well. But this one is washed and peeled. And so are the rest of the vegetables. So just make sure to do that, because you never know where they're lying in the supermarket. So I have just cut off the top and the bottom part of the carrot, and I'm going to cut it in half. So for the carrot, I would recommend for this recipe, I grated it at the weekend, but I think it kind of makes the ingredients a little bit wet. So I think quite fine lines just gives it a nicer crunch in the recipe. So I'm going to put mine into thin lines. So I've cut that carrot in half, and then I've cut the half again, and I'm going to cut it lengthways down the way. Again, if you like smaller chunks, or if you don't want to do lines, that's no problem. It's just whatever your personal preference is. So just like that. And there we go. That size is perfect. So I'm just going to put them all in a bowl, and then we can move on to our sauce. And also, so we're going to be using grilled chicken in this recipe, but if you wanted to make it kind of more of a fakeaway dish, you have the option to bread it. So if you wanted to make your homemade breaded chicken, breadcrumbs, eggs, and flour. So if you cut up your chicken into pieces and then dip it into the flour, the egg, and then make some breadcrumbs as well, and dip it into the breadcrumbs, and then you can just put that into the oven. And then when you make the sauce, put the sauce in at the end. And that would be kind of more, if you wanted that little bit of crunchier chicken, that might work as well. So that's my carrots cut up there, like that. And then my onion and my pepper. So I've got all the vegetables prepped now. So I'm going to move on to my sauce. So for the sauce, the ingredients that you need are pineapple juice. So I have my pineapple juice here. I just bought my pineapple juice in Tesco, and I bought the tinned pineapple juice with it in its own natural juice. So it's really important when you're buying tinned fruit to buy it in its own natural juice, because it's much lower in sugar than if it's bought in syrup and things. So just be mindful of that when you're buying your ingredients, that when you're buying the pineapple juice, that it's in its natural juice. It will say it on the front. I just got mine in Tesco. You can get tinned pineapple, so you can use fresh pineapple as well if you like. But I bought the tinned pineapple, and the chunks, they came in chunks already. So I've already done my chunks. So if you're at home, you can do your chunks now, or if you've bought the tin, just pour the juice into one container and the chunks into the second. So the other ingredients that we need for the sauce is reduced salt soy sauce, corn flour, and tomato puree. So it's a really simple sauce, and once you buy these ingredients, you'll have them to make over a couple of times. So like in the long run, it will be cheaper than if you were to buy that jar of sweet and sour sauce, which again is much higher in sugar. So for the sauce, I've put the pineapple juice in here. So it's just 1 tin of pineapple juice, and then it is, I have my recipe in front of me here. It's 2 tablespoons of tomato puree. So I just got this one. That's tomato puree. That's what it looks like. So 2 tablespoons of that all into the one bowl, like that. 1 teaspoon of soy sauce. And this soy sauce is reduced salt. So also just be a little bit mindful when you're buying soy sauce that it is reduced salt soy sauce, because soy sauce is quite naturally high in salt. So if you're trying to kind of watch your blood pressure or monitor your salt intake, it's really important that you go for those lower salt options. So just give that a quick mix. It should kind of be a brown color. If you look at that, like that. And it kind of smells quite pineapple-y, but when it's cooked off, it tastes like sweet and sour. So it just should be like that kind of consistency. And then the purpose of the corn flour is to thicken that. So it's just 1 tablespoon of corn flour. And if you don't have corn flour, plain flour would work similar, but corn flour would just be, it acts as a thickener. So it does it works a little bit better than plain flour, but plain flour would be fine as well if you didn't have it in and you wanted to make this recipe. So the corn flour also kind of lightens up the color of the sauce. So I'll show you now in a second what that looks like. And also, if you wanted to make this recipe gluten-free, corn flour is naturally gluten-free, but if you just switched out your soy sauce to gluten-free soy sauce, you could make this recipe gluten-free for anyone out there that is gluten-free. Or vegan or vegetarian, just switch out the chicken for another protein source like chickpeas or lentils or something. Or even you don't even have to put in you can just use vegetables if you'd like, if that's your preference. So the sauce should look like that now, you can see, and it's that kind of consistency. And you don't have to sieve the corn flour or anything, it should just all mix through like that. The kind of acidity of the pineapple juice will break that down, so it doesn't need to be sieved. So it just kind of looks like that. So once our sauce and our vegetables are prepped, we are ready to move on to the cooking part. So I'm just going to check. I have our wedges already pre-cooking in the oven, so I'm just making sure on that. And also you can give your rice a quick check now, just to make sure. So give it a quick stir if it's looking like it's needs a stir, and just give it a check. Mine is fine, so I think anyone else that started at the same time as me, they should be fine too. So I'm just going to put my hob on now. So, and then I'm going to use a tablespoon of olive oil, vegetable oil, whatever oil. And olive oil or vegetable oil would probably be the best options. but if you don't have them, that's no problem. So just 1 tablespoon of olive oil on the pan. I just have a pan like this. It's just a regular pan. You don't need a wok or anything. And I'll just wait for that to heat up a little bit. So you can start off with the chicken. So I already have my chicken diced in a bowl. So if you're watching, you can dice up your chicken. I just have them cut into quite small chunks. But depending on, you can make it into bigger chunks or whatever, if you prefer that. So I'm just going to wait until that's hot. And obviously when you're using chicken, be really careful that the utensils and everything that you've used are washed and clean, and there's no cross-contamination between anything, because chicken has a lot of bacteria on it. So just waiting for my pan to heat up. And once it's heat up, we're going to put the chicken on, and then we're going to use our vegetables, put in the vegetables, add the pineapple and then the sauce, and then put it on the pan until that's done. And it's really quick and simple recipe. So that'll be that done then after that. So much quicker. It mightn't be as quick as if you're waiting outside the takeaway, but it lasts longer. So that's always a good thing. So I'm just going to put the chicken on now. My chicken is ready. My pan is ready. So I have that cooked in. So I'm just going to stir fry this on a kind of medium high heat for maybe 7 minutes. So if anyone has any questions or anything they want to say, they can put it in the chat, and Jackie can let me know if there's anything, any questions or anything.
Can you hear me, Georgia?
Yeah.
Okay, there's no questions yet in the chat at all. And I think I've made it that if they want to ask a question that they can ask as well, rather than putting it in the chat, but I'm not sure if that works.
Okay, brilliant.
But if they would put it in the chat, that would be great, but there are no questions.
Brilliant. So you can hear that. So you're waiting for your chicken just to cook. And again, if you had breaded chicken, you don't need to do that part. You just have your breaded chicken out of the oven, and you could stir fry your vegetables on the pan and then add your chicken all to kind of a bowl or a pan and heat up your sauce on the pan and then mix them together. But for today's recipe, we're just going to use a grilled chicken. So just chicken here. Like this, so no coatings on it or anything. And also, if you didn't have brown rice and you only had basmati or anything, that's fine. Just remember that if you were cooking with white rice, you might want to put it on now. It just takes that little bit, it's a little bit quicker just because of the brown on the outer layer. It doesn't have to be broken down. And brown rice is that little bit higher in fiber, so it will keep you a little bit fuller for longer, which is great for appetite and hunger and things. So you can probably hear now that my chicken is sizzling, so I'm going to bring over my other vegetables and just leave them beside me to have everything ready. But I won't put them in just yet. I'll just wait until the chicken is fully cooked through. So there should be no pink on the inside, and the temperature of the chicken should reach 75 degrees. So it's great if you have a meat thermometer to make sure that it's just reached 75 degrees all the way through, to avoid any thickness or anything. Especially in the season, a lot of people are doing barbecues and things. So if you have a meat thermometer, that's great, especially if you're barbecuing, because a lot of people can get sick of those types of food. So that's what my chicken is, just on the pan like that. It's not ready yet. And my rice is cooking away at the back. So if you get the proportions of your rice right, so 2 cups of cold water to 1 cup of rice, you shouldn't have to drain it. It should just all boil off and be cooked then. So you don't really have to drain rice. I think it's only when you get the measurements a little bit wrong that you have to drain it, but it should just all boil off and then be ready to eat then. So my chicken is nearly done now. Just a few more minutes. Just until it's a little bit brown. And again, if you had fresh pineapple, you can use fresh pineapple, that's no problem. So this is what my chicken looks like. Now it's still a little bit white, so I'm going to leave it on a little bit longer. It's not cooked fully through yet. I'm going to leave it there. Cook for a minute. And just a note, this brown rice, I just got this in Tesco. And a lot of people use microwave rice, but this rice, microwave rice, it is actually cheaper in the shop, but this bag of rice will last you much longer than one packet of microwave rice. So just that's something to be mindful of when you're buying rice and you think you're getting the cheaper option. Just that packet of rice has 2 servings in it. So it will do you for like 1 or 2 days. So you can use that, but often this will get you and your family that little bit more rice and it will last longer. That's really important. And also if you're cooking rice yourself, I think there's a common fear around reheating rice the next day. But if you have cooked the rice yourself and you let it cool properly and put it in the fridge, you can reheat it the next day. It's only if you've bought rice out of the home and you don't know if it's been reheated that you can't use it, because that will be unsafe. But if you have prepared the rice yourself, you can reheat it the next day. That's no problem. So just a note on that rice. Yeah, so my chicken is starting to brown now. I'm gonna put in. I think that might be too loud for our Zoom. So it looks like that. It's a little bit brown, as you can see. And a few more minutes, it'll be ready. And then we'll go with the onion first. So I'm going to do the onion and then I'll do the peppers and the carrots at the same time, pineapple and then our salt. And also, the cost of this, so I have 2 meals here. So I have the Cajun chicken burgers and the sweet and sour chicken, and the cost of the whole of this was about €25. So if you were to buy your own sweet and sour chicken out, it would probably be about €12, and this feeds a family of 4. So just even the price comparison, and you've got a second dinner here, your Cajun chicken burgers, and if you have leftovers of this the next day, then you can use them for your lunch or anything. So my chicken is ready to go. So I'm going to put in my onions now. I'm just going to brown them off a little bit. And check on your rice again. And also, if you wanted your rice to cook that little bit quicker, I started my rice before this, so yours might not be done. But if you wanted to cook it a little bit quicker, your brown rice compared to your white rice, you could soak it in cold water overnight or pressure boil it. That would make it just boil that little bit faster. So that is what the peppers and the chicken look like. So just a little bit brown, and then you can go ahead and throw in the rest of your vegetables. So our carrots and our peppers. I'm gonna leave the pineapple for until these are cooked. But again, you can use tomatoes, cabbage or broccoli, green beans, anything you have really will go well in this. Or even if you just liked peppers, you can just use 3 peppers and have green, red, and yellow peppers just to increase the nutrient density of the dish. I'm going to keep that on there for a minute or two. Just stir fry them all. Like that. So that's what the pan looks like with all the vegetables in it. So nice and colorful. And again, if anyone has any questions, you can just send them in.
Georgia,
Yeah.
can you use prawns or other meats instead of chicken? Or could you, if you were a vegetarian, is there anything you could use?
Yeah, so you can use prawns, you can use anything, but if you were a vegetarian, you can use chickpeas, lentils, you could use tofu even. And if you wanted to marinate your tofu overnight, you could make that sauce, put your tofu in it, cover it in cling film and put it in the fridge. But even like chickpeas will work, lentils or anything, just to increase your protein if you were a vegetarian. And those would all work as well.
Okay. How long do you cook the veg once the chicken is cooked for approximately?
So the recipe, it says about 5 to 7 minutes. It depends on like how crunchy or how soft you like your vegetables. So if you want them that little bit crunchier, I'd say leave it on the lower end of 5 to 7 minutes. And if you want it a little bit softer, leave it on for that little bit longer. But for me, I like my carrots kind of crunchy in like a sweet and sour sauce, so I would leave it on for less time. So just like that. So you can see there the onions and the pepper, they're all soft. So I'm gonna put in my pineapple now. So my pineapple was already cubed. You can buy it in rings as well, but mine came in cubes like that. So just in their own natural juice as well. So my pineapple is in. So the last thing that you have to do now is just add your sauce. So that was a really quick recipe, and so something that can be done really easily. Or if you had your chicken made the night before and you know you have a busy evening, use the chicken and have the sauce made, and you can cover it and throw it into the pan, and then you have your dinner made in less than 15 minutes. The rice is probably the longest part. So the pineapple doesn't have to be cooked for long, because it's already, obviously it's pineapple. So just a few minutes, and then I'll put my sauce in and I'll plate it up. So for if you wanted to serve this, like a few options would be maybe some sesame seeds or some scallions would be nice to sprinkle on top. Just if you wanted to add a little bit of extra crunch or anything. And even with scallions, if you cut the end off the scallion, the part where the root is, and put them back into water, you can regrow them yourself. So just a little hack for anyone who wants to start growing their own vegetables. Or even on the windowsill, you can put it in a small little, even a yogurt pot, and it'll grow. So I'm going to put my sauce in now, because all mine are ready. So that's what it looks like before the sauce, just like that. So just throw your sauce in all over. There. And just let that simmer there for a few minutes. Get the sauce mixed in with everything. Like this. So I'm just going to give my wedges a check that I had already cooked, but obviously you won't have them done yet. Yeah, so mine are done, so I'm going to leave them on the side and I'll show you them later, how you make them and everything. So this is what our sauce looks like and our dish. So it should look a little bit red and all mixed in, a little bit thick, but not too thick. So just, it should look like your sweet and sour dish that you get in the takeaway. Looks the exact same. So there we go. And I'm just going to leave that. So I'm going to put the heat down a little bit. So I'm going to put it to maybe 3 or 2, depending on how hot your stove is. So I'll leave that there for maybe 3 or 4 minutes, just for everything to kind of get mixed up together and everything. And we can get moving on to the next thing. So for the next thing, we're going to be making Cajun chicken and wedges. So these are chicken burgers. We're going to be making a healthy coleslaw along with the chicken to put on the top. So coleslaw, it has mayonnaise in it. So this one actually uses Greek yogurt. So Greek yogurt is great, kind of gives the same consistency as mayonnaise, but obviously it's higher in protein and much lower in saturated fat and everything, so much better for your health than your actual mayonnaise. So I'm going to get started. I'm going to just move everything onto this table, and we can do it all here. So I'll move these out of the way. And so what you would have already preheated your oven because you would have been making wedges. So for your Cajun chicken burgers, you're going to start off, if you're making Cajun chicken burgers and wedges, because wedges take longer, you're going to start off with making your wedges. So I just used these rooster potatoes, and I leave the skins on because the skins are quite high in fiber. So they're like a great way to increase your fiber intake. So if you have I have already washed and dried these potatoes. So I put my oven on to 210 to preheat for these, and then just washed and dried this potato. So I'm going to cut it in half, and just keeping an eye on your sweet and sour sauce if you're making that. So I'm always, when you're cutting a potato, like the onion, flat surface on the chopping board. So when you're cutting it into wedges, just cut the potato into half and then just slice it down. And if you want them thinner, so if that's too thick for you, just cut it in half again and cut it in half again. So it should be about that size wedge, and that's perfect. And then again with the same, and also if you want to take off any if there's any kind of rotten pieces on your potato, you can just take it off, but mine are all okay. So that one is a little bit too thick. So it just kind of depends on what you like. If you like them thicker or thinner, you can cut them as thick or as thin as you want. So when you've got your potatoes all cooked, all cut like that. So for this recipe, we used 4 potatoes. So that's for 4 people. So that's as much there. I've just cut 1. I already have the other ones on. So this is what they look like finished. So that's for 4 people there. That's the amount that it will be. So when you have this potato done, so what I did with that, when I had it cut like that, I put it into a bowl and I added a tablespoon of vegetable oil, and I put on some smoked paprika, and I just mixed it around together and then put it on a baking tray and put it in the oven for 30 to 45 minutes, depending on how kind of soft or hard you want them. but they should come out looking like that. So that's your potatoes done. And then you can move on to your chicken. So for the chicken, we're going to start off with the spice. So I'll just get my spice mix ready. So I have already pounded my chicken down to make them all an even thickness. And obviously when you're using chicken, be really careful. Again, just going to put that in the bin. And so the recipe is for 4 chicken breasts, but I have 3 here. So just pound down your chicken, and then you can buy just whole chicken breasts and pound it down to kind of even thickness. Just makes it nice and flat. Just while we're doing that, I'm going to give our sweet and sour sauce, our sweet and sour chicken, a little look. Yeah, so that's done now. So you can see there, it's quite thick, and it looks like it should look. Looks like the one in the takeaway, as we should expect. So that's that recipe done. So I'm just going to leave that to the back. But if you're just cooking one recipe with me today, and you're done, that's no problem.
Can I ask questions here? That's what is the difference between that sauce, you know, for the fake away than the takeaway version? What is the difference?
So this sauce would have, the takeaway version would have much higher sugar content and saturated fat content in it. The sugar they'd probably have used, they would have added sugar to their recipe. We don't add sugar to our recipes. And they also probably would have used pineapple juice in syrup to make it that little bit sweeter. Using oil, like a lot of oil as well. You can't really control the amount of, and what's in it. And they also would have probably added salt. So there's no salt in this recipe. So it's kind of, it's friendly, salt friendly and sugar friendly, and it's lower in saturated fat. So it's better for your health, better for lowers your cholesterol and everything, reduced cholesterol if you're eating the fake away version rather than the takeaway version.
Okay, one of the other questions was, can you use salt? So you've answered that.
Yeah.
Can you use fat-free yogurt or Fage yogurt? The Fage instead of the, you said something about yogurt.
Oh, for yogurt, for the healthy coat. Yeah, this is 0% Greek yogurt, and it's the same as that Thai yogurt that you can get. Yeah, perfect.
Okay, and could I use sweet potatoes instead of regular potatoes?
Yeah, no problem. Sweet potatoes would work the same way. It just depends on your preference, really. I just use them, but sweet potatoes are just as good.
Okay.
The option. Yeah. I'm going to plate up the sweet and sour, just so everyone can see what it kind of looks like on your plate. So I'll just do a little portion here. And again, if you have sesame seeds or spring onions, that would be a lovely topping to put on top of this. And it just kind of finish it off and everything if you're making it. So that's our final product. There you go. That's what it kind of should look like. So I hope everyone looks like that. Now I'm going to move these out of the way. And we can start on our chicken breasts, our chicken mix. So for our chicken, the 4 spices that we need for our spice mix are cayenne pepper, ground cumin, ground coriander, and smoked paprika. So the recipe is 1 tablespoon of ground cumin, and I bought all these spices in Tesco. You can get them anywhere. Lidl will have them, Tesco will have them. They're just in the spice section, and once you have them, you can reuse them again and again. So that's something that's really handy. You might think like at the start it might look like a big grocery bill, but honestly, like once you have these spices, it's really hard to get through a bottle of spice. So if you invest at the start, you'll reap the rewards at the end. You'll be able to reuse these spices. And even if you had like chicken, you were making kind of a chicken curry for dinner, but you had 2 leftover chicken breasts, if you put that spice mix on it and then put it in a wrap for your lunch the next day, or you put it in your chicken salad, like that's a really nice option to do. So it's 1 tablespoon of ground cumin. So that's 1 tablespoon. I'll get a tablespoon. So the tablespoon is this one. So the large spoon. So 1 tablespoon of ground cumin. 1 tablespoon of smoked paprika, which is this one. It's kind of red in color. 1 tablespoon of ground coriander, which is this one. I'm just going to bring it closer to the screen. And then it's only a teaspoon of cayenne pepper because that's quite spicy. So if you wanted to leave that out, you could. I'll just bring them closer to the camera. So this is our cayenne pepper. This is our ground coriander. This is our cumin. And this is our smoked paprika. So I put the smoked paprika on our wedges as well. So you can do that. Or if you wanted, you could change your spice. You could put Cajun. You can actually buy Cajun spice in the shop. You could put that on it. But this is just kind of making your own Cajun spice. And so I have put all those ingredients into a bowl and just given it a little bit of a mix. So I'm going to put the pan on the hob, and I'm going to put 1 tablespoon of oil on that to get it heating before we put it on. So again, it'll be a little bit hot. So just 1 tablespoon of your vegetable oil. And it's perfect. And then just wait until that heats up. So while that's heating up, I'm going to put my spice mix onto my chicken. So I've got my chicken here, and I'm just going to sprinkle it over and then rub it in. If you're kind of wary about chicken, you can put your gloves on, but just make sure that any utensils that you use that have touched the chicken are washed properly afterwards, because you don't want to get food poisoning. So I'm just doing the first side, and then I'm going to turn it over and do the other side.
Georgia, if you had chicken that was already cooked, can you heat it up and add those spices then, or does those spices have to be used with raw chicken?
No. So if you had, say, a chicken breast from the day before, you would have to put it on the pan. So if you put that cooked chicken again on the pan, you'd have to put it back on the pan to reheat it and then put the spices on. But you could use chicken that has already been cooked as well. Yeah. So that's covered now. So that spice mix should be enough spice for 4 chicken breasts. And if you want, you can butterfly your chicken breasts, which just means that you cut it in half and wing it out just to make it a little bit flatter for your burger bun. So I'm just going to place this on our pan. So our pan is heated up now. So I'm going to just put that on the pan, and you can hear it will sizzle. Yeah. Now, so I'll leave that there. And what I do sometimes, if you want to make the juices a little bit kind of run out, like the spice and everything, is put a lid on the pan, and it just kind of brings out the juices of the chicken a little bit more, so it will give it that little bit more flavor. But that's no problem if you don't have a lid or anything. Like I don't have a lid today, so I'm just going to use it like that, and I'm going to leave that on there, just kind of keeping an eye on it all the time, making sure that it's okay. But it will take it a few minutes to cook anyway. So about halfway through, we're going to flip it. And then in the meantime, we're going to start making our healthy coleslaw. So for our healthy coleslaw, the ingredients are gem lettuce, and I have white cabbage here. It's actually red cabbage on the recipe, but red cabbage is actually out of season, so I couldn't get it anywhere. And carrot. So what I did is, so I've got, the recipe is 1 carrot, 1 cup of red cabbage or white cabbage, whatever is in season. 1 little gem lettuce, so you can buy them in a packet in Tesco, and just that's one of those small ones. 3 tablespoons of Greek yogurt, 1 garlic clove, a pinch of black pepper, and a lime. So I'm gonna just get rid of my potato over here. I'm gonna use this chopping board to cook my, yeah, everyone can see me. So I'm gonna start off with our vegetables. So I'm gonna grate the carrot. I have a grater here. So just with your carrot, again, similar to what we did previously, peel it, cut the top off, cut the end off, and then I'm actually going to cut it in half again. And then I have a grater. You can cut it into small chunks. If you don't have a grater, that's no problem, don't worry. So just cut it into small chunks, just like those that you'd see when you actually have coleslaw. And so the red cabbage is actually out of season at the moment, which is why I had to buy white cabbage. So red cabbage would be in season about October, November, December, I think it is. So white cabbage is what's in season right now. You can get a list of your seasonal vegetables, which are in season, on stopfoodwaste.ie. And if you get those, it just helps you to reduce kind of your waste, because your vegetables will be in season, so they'll last that little bit longer. So if you have that seasonal vegetable, you'll always know. So I think in June right now, strawberries, tomatoes, broccoli, cucumber, and garlic, scallions are all in season. So they're good ones to buy right now. So I'm just going to use this. And you'll always have that little bit at the end that doesn't really use, but we'll try and get it all in anyway, reduce our waste. So when you're buying the white cabbage, just take the leaves off the outside. Just take the first few leaves off the outside. I've also washed all these vegetables, so make sure you wash your vegetables before you start chopping them. Okay, so those are done. I'm just going to give my chicken a quick check. So it looks good. So this is what it looks like right now. And I'm just going to flip it. So there we go. That's what it looks like flipped. There we go. So it's a little bit brown, but it's not cooked at all yet. No, not just yet. So we'll just leave it on for a little bit longer. Might just see if I do have a lid, just to get the juices out. So I have this lid here, or actually I have this lid. So I just have this lid here. And I'm just going to put this lid on just to kind of get the juices out of the chicken and make it a little bit nicer, get the flavors going. So once you've grated this carrot, get a big bowl for all your ingredients to be put in. So I'm going to use this big white bowl, and I'm going to get the carrot that I just grated and put that in here too. So I've got one carrot in there. And also you can increase the recipe depending on the number of people you're serving. This recipe would serve 4 people. So you can increase it or decrease it depending on if you're a household of 2 or if you're a household of 4. And the next thing I'm going to put in is my gem lettuce. So I use this little gem lettuce. So they come in the shop like that. So that's what they look like. And I just use one of them, and I chopped it really finely. So just like, I'm gonna check on my chicken. Yeah, looking good. And so I chopped that really finely. So I'm gonna just show you over here, just to make sure that everyone can see. So just really finely. I have washed all these vegetables before. So if you cut it down, it should be kind of stringy like that. Long, thin strips. Just kind of like you'd see in when you do buy your actual coleslaw. So I'm going to put that into my bowl. So I've already got that done. And again, the same with the white cabbage. So this is the cabbage that I bought. So like that. And if you just cut that in half, you only need 1 cup of the cabbage. So it's fine, but I'll just show you how to cut it. So I'll put that there. So the finely sliced. So if you cut off a little bit and you have a nice sharp knife and just straight down like that. Really thin slices. And it should be nice and stringy like that. Can you see that? That's kind of how it should look. Yeah. So I've got 1 cup of cabbage there. So into the bowl, like that. So in our bowl, we have the grated cabbage, the lettuce and the carrot. So now just going to check on our chicken again, make sure it's okay. Yeah. Looks good. So I'm going to take our lid off now. Kind of mine looks like that. So it's nearly done, but not quite there. So this is where it would be good to have a meat thermometer. You could just really make sure that it is cooked the whole way through. So next, in our bowl with our cabbage, carrot and lettuce, I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of Greek yogurt. So I have just this one from Tesco. It's just 0% fat Greek yogurt. You can use whichever yogurt. Greek yogurt, often people will get rid of the kind of that liquid that's on top of Greek yogurt, but that's actually where all the protein in the Greek yogurt lies. So it's really important not to drain that out of your yogurt. You really just give it a mix and you won't even notice that it's in there, because that's really where all the protein is contained. So I have 3 tablespoons of Greek yogurt in there, and I'm just going to give that a mix. And then once that's mixed, I'm going to put in my clove of garlic. So it's just 1 clove of garlic, and it's just like minced. So I've already done that. And so when you're cutting garlic, just cut the end off, the top off, and peel it. And then using a garlic crusher, you can put that in. So I'm just going to put that in as well into my mixture. So that's what it should look like right now.
How many does that serve, that coleslaw?
This coleslaw would serve the 4 burgers.
Okay.
And you might even have a little bit left over, depending on how much that you would put in it. So next is our lime. So they say to use the rind, which is the outer surface of the lime. So you can see my lime doesn't look fully green. That's because I've already peeled some of it. So I actually used this grater and I just grated that off. So it just gives it a really nice taste. So just using a grater, just like that, just the outside of the lime into the bowl. So just to give it a nice taste. And always when you're using lime, so I'm going to use the juice of the lime as well. So I'm going to put these over here. So the juice of a lime as well. So it's really important to roll out your lime or your lemon when you're using them to get all the juices out of them. And then I'm going to cut the lime in half and squeeze a full lime into the bowl. So this one is quite hard, but just the juice of the lime give it a nice flavor. Like that. There. So it should look like that. When you're done, kind of just looks like coleslaw, but that's just Greek yogurt. So once that's done, we'll just take another quick look at our chicken. And see if it's done. I'm just going to get a knife. So my chicken is done. So I bought these wholemeal burger buns. So wholemeal burger buns are higher in fiber than your typical white burger buns, which is why I chose them. So they'll keep you a little bit fuller for longer, and they're just more nutritionally dense. So I just bought those in Tesco. And I'm gonna take my chicken off the pan. Gonna turn off my pan, turn off our ovens, and put the chicken onto the burger. So I'll just present one here. So you just put your chicken on. And if you don't like coleslaw, you don't have to add the coleslaw. You can just use lettuce and tomato and put in, kind of get your vegetables in that way rather than using this way. But this is just a nice kind of alternative if you're just sick of having like vegetables and just plain kind of, this just adds a little bit something extra. So that is what our burger looks like at the end. I'm just gonna get rid of that one, but I'll show everyone. So that is what it looks like with our coleslaw. So that's all our recipes for today. Thank you very much for everyone who came and listened. Do we have any questions?
No, there's no questions, but maybe if anybody wants to put some in the chat, for any questions. There is a recording of this too.
That will be posted online later. So if anyone missed it or you want to look back on it, that's no problem.
So before I end the segment, I want to thank you all for attending. There doesn't seem to be any more questions, Georgia, so.
Perfect.
Okay. Oh, thank you. That's somebody has just said thank you, Georgia.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you very much,
somebody
everyone.
else. Will the recipe be available?
So the recipe was linked in with, so if you registered, the recipe would have been underneath where you registered with the link of the Zoom. So where you click the link to the Zoom, the recipes are underneath, but the recipes will also be posted on the Northside Partnership website and Instagram today. So, or today or early next week. So they'll be online available for you to have.
On the website, is it?
Yeah, and on Instagram as well.
Okay, all right. That's all the questions. Anybody else have any more questions before? Somebody has a thumbs up. Anything else, guys? Anyone else want to ask questions? Doesn't look like it. I'll ask again. Anyone else, just in case? It doesn't look like anyone's typing.
Yeah.
So that looks delicious, Georgia, and I am starving, so I am dying.
Come on in.